The massive space station called Nexus Prime floated in the darkness between star systems. Its metal corridors buzzed with activity as ships from 12 different alien species docked at its ports. The Galactic Defense Summit was about to begin, and everyone knew why they were here. The Void Hunters had struck again, this time destroying 3 entire colonies in the Outer Rim. Captain Jack Morrison guided his ship toward the docking bay with steady hands. The USS Defiance looked nothing like the sleek vessels already moored at the station, where alien ships curved and flowed like living things. His ship was all straight lines and thick armor plating. Black scorch marks covered its hull from a recent battle, and one of its main engines sputtered weakly. "Sir, we're getting some strange looks from the other ships," said Lieutenant Commander Amy Davis from her position at the tactical station. She watched her screen as elegant alien vessels danced around them, their movements smooth and graceful. "Let them look," Morrison replied. He had been through this before. Humans were still new to the galactic community, and most aliens treated them like children playing with dangerous toys. The docking bay was enormous, designed to hold ships from species with very different ideas about how spacecraft should look. The Vorthon ships gleamed like silver teardrops, their hulls seeming to shift and bend in the light. The insectoid vessels from the Hive Collective looked like giant metal wasps, their wings folded against their sides. The ethereal ships were almost see-through, made from some kind of crystal that pulsed with inner light. And then there was the USS Defiance, sitting among them like a brick among butterflies. Morrison walked through the station's corridors toward the main conference room. Other delegates moved past him, some floating, some walking on multiple legs, some that looked almost human except for their blue skin or extra arms. They all glanced at him with what he had learned to recognize as polite contempt. The conference room was a marvel of engineering, with gravity fields adjusted for each species and translation devices that turned alien speech into words he could understand. Admiral Vexnara of the Stellar Coalition stood at the center, her tall frame covered in scales that changed color as she spoke. "The Void Hunter attacks are increasing in frequency," she announced. "We have lost contact with 17 colonies in the past month. Their ships appear without warning, destroy everything, and vanish before our fleets can respond." Commander Zexthul of the Vorthon Hegemony stood next, his 4 arms gesturing as he spoke. "My ships have engaged them twice. Their weapons seem to disrupt our phase drives and navigation systems. We need a coordinated response." Queen Hivesinger Clixara's translation device made clicking sounds as she communicated. "The swarm agrees. Individual fleet actions have failed. We must combine our technologies." Morrison waited for his turn to speak, but when Admiral Vexnara's gaze fell on him, her expression showed barely hidden amusement. "Captain Morrison, perhaps you could share the human perspective on these attacks." The room fell quiet. Morrison could feel dozens of alien eyes watching him, some curious, most dismissive. "We've had 3 encounters with the Void Hunters," he began. "Each time they seemed to target our more advanced systems first. Our ship survived because we don't rely on the same technology as most galactic vessels." A sound that the translator called laughter came from several delegates. Commander Zexthul's scales shifted to what Morrison had learned meant contempt. "Of course your primitive systems were ignored. The Void Hunters target actual threats. Perhaps the humans could assist with evacuation duties," suggested the ethereal delegate, its crystal body pulsing with soft light. "Their cargo capacity appears adequate for such work." More laughter filled the room. Morrison felt Amy tense beside him, her hand moving instinctively toward her sidearm. He placed a gentle hand on her shoulder and kept his expression calm. "We're willing to help however we can," he said simply. Admiral Vexnara activated a holographic display showing ship formations. Sleek alien vessels moved in complex patterns, their paths traced in different colored lights. "The fleet composition will be as follows. 4th End ships will form the advance guard, using their phase technology to scout enemy positions. The Hive Collective will provide swarm tactics and overwhelming numbers. Ethereal vessels will manipulate gravity fields to trap enemy ships." The display showed human ships far behind the main battle lines, marked with the symbol for support vessels. "Human ships will handle logistics and evacuation of non-combatants," the Admiral continued. "Your weapons technology is not suited for ship-to-ship combat, and your engines are too slow to keep up with tactical maneuvers." Morrison nodded as if this made perfect sense. "Understood. We'll do our part." As the meeting continued, alien delegates shared intelligence about Void Hunter tactics and technology. Morrison listened carefully, taking notes on a simple tablet while other delegates used floating holographic displays and neural interfaces. Everything about human technology seemed crude and outdated compared to the marvels around him. When the formal session ended, groups of aliens gathered to discuss strategy. Morrison and Amy found themselves excluded from these conversations, standing alone near the large viewport that looked out at the docked ships. "Sir, this is ridiculous," Amy said quietly. "We know more about the Void Hunters than any of them. We've actually fought them and won." "They don't need to know that yet," Morrison replied, watching as alien crew members floated gracefully between their ships using personal gravity manipulators. His own crew had to use simple magnetic boots and safety lines. A group of young alien officers passed by, their conversation clearly audible through the translators. "Look at their ship," one was saying. "How do they even travel between stars with such primitive engines? I heard they still use chemical rockets for maneuvering," another added. "No wonder the Void Hunters ignore them." "They probably think it's just space debris." Amy's jaw tightened, but Morrison remained calm. He had heard it all before during humanity's 3 years in the galactic community. Slow ships, primitive weapons, outdated technology. Let them think that. The final planning session assigned specific roles to each species. The Vorthons would use their advanced sensors to track Void Hunter movements. The Hive Collective would overwhelm enemy positions with coordinated swarm attacks. The Ethereals would provide long-range support with their gravity weapons, and the humans would stay safely in the rear, ready to pick up survivors and carry supplies. Morrison accepted his orders with grace and thanked the Admiral for including Earth's forces in the operation. Other delegates were already making plans to meet at the staging area in the Kepler 442 system, where the next Void Hunter attack was expected. As the USS Defiance undocked from Nexus Prime, Amy watched the alien ships leap away at impossible speeds, their exotic drives bending space and time. The human ship seemed to crawl by comparison, its fusion engines pushing them slowly toward their destination. "Sir," she said carefully, "are we really going to let them think we're helpless?" Morrison smiled for the first time since the conference began. "Amy, sometimes the best weapon is the one your enemy never sees coming." The USS Defiance moved through space at what other species would call a crawling pace. Inside the ship, Captain Morrison walked through corridors that looked nothing like the flowing organic curves of alien vessels. Everything was straight lines, thick metal walls, and sturdy construction that could survive almost anything. Morrison entered the main briefing room where his senior officers waited. These were people he had served with for years, and they all shared the same secret. Chief Engineer Pete Rodriguez sat at the metal table, his hands stained with grease from working on the ship's engines. Dr. Lisa Hayes, their science officer, had spread data tablets across the surface, each one showing information about their real enemy. "Report," Pete, Morrison said as he took his seat. Rodriguez grinned. "The fusion plasma hybrid drive is running perfectly, Captain. The aliens still think we're using primitive chemical rockets for everything. They have no idea what we're really capable of." Dr. Hayes looked up from her data. "I've been studying the intelligence reports from our previous encounters with the Void Hunters. The pattern is clear now. Their quantum disruption weapons specifically target advanced alien technology. Neural networks, phase drives, quantum computers. They all fail when exposed to Void Hunter weapons." Amy Davis leaned forward. "And our systems are completely immune," Hayes finished. "Because we don't use any of that technology. Every system on this ship can be operated manually if needed. Our computers use simple binary processing instead of quantum states. Our weapons use chemical explosives and kinetic energy instead of exotic particles." Morrison nodded. "The galaxy thinks we're backward. They have no idea that every human ship was designed specifically to fight the Void Hunters." It was true. 3 years ago, when Earth first made contact with the galactic community, they had also encountered the Void Hunters. The first meeting had been a disaster. Alien ships trying to help Earth had been disabled instantly by Void Hunter weapons, while human vessels fought on using what everyone called primitive technology. Earth's engineers had spent the next 3 years studying every scrap of Void Hunter technology they could find. While the galaxy welcomed humans as junior members who needed protection, Earth had been building a fleet designed for one purpose: to kill Void Hunters when advanced alien technology failed. "Show me what we know about their current operations," Morrison said. Hayes activated a holographic display, one of the few advanced technologies human ships used. The projection showed star maps and attack patterns. The Void Hunters have been testing galactic defenses for months. Each attack has been designed to learn more about alien capabilities. They know exactly how to disable Vorthon phase drives, how to corrupt Hive collective neural networks, and how to overload ethereal quantum matrices. But they've never fought a fleet of human ships, Rodriguez added. Morrison's communication panel chimed with an incoming message. The face of Captain Susan Blake appeared on the screen, her expression serious. Behind her, the bridge of the USS Relentless looked identical to Morrison's own ship. All function, no style. Jack, we're in position at the edge of the Kepler system, Blake reported. Captain Santos and the Thunderbolt are with us. The alien fleet is staging exactly where we predicted. Any sign of Void Hunter activity? Our long-range sensors are picking up quantum distortions near the fourth planet. They're already here, just waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Morrison felt a cold satisfaction. While the aliens had been planning their grand battle, human ships had been conducting covert operations for months. 3 vessels had been tracking Void Hunter movements, studying their tactics and preparing for this moment. Susan, remind me what we learned from the Cygnus engagement. Blake's expression hardened. The Void Hunters always disable command ships first. They target vessels with the most advanced computers and communication systems. Once they cut off coordination between alien forces, they pick off the remaining ships one by one. Dr. Hayes pulled up another display. Their weapons work by introducing quantum paradoxes into any system that relies on quantum entanglement or probability calculations. Most alien technology becomes completely useless within minutes of exposure. Navigation Officer Ben Foster spoke up from his station. Sir, I've calculated emergency jump coordinates for all possible battle scenarios. If we need to extract alien survivors, we can be anywhere in the system within 30 minutes. Communications Specialist Maria Lopez added, I've established encrypted networks between our 3 ships. We're using old-fashioned radio transmissions with frequency-hopping encryption. The Void Hunters won't be able to interfere with our communications. Morrison stood and walked to the viewport. In the distance, he could see the faint lights of alien ships gathering for battle, hundreds of vessels, each one a marvel of engineering that represented thousands of years of technological advancement. Ships that could bend space, manipulate time, and channel the fundamental forces of the universe, and every single one of them would be helpless against Void Hunter weapons. Sir, Amy said quietly, are we really going to let them walk into a trap? Morrison considered the question. For 3 years, humanity had endured condescending treatment from species that saw them as primitive children. Earth's requests for full membership in the galactic community had been politely dismissed. Human contributions to science and technology were ignored or credited to alien advisors. But more than that, Morrison knew that warning the aliens would accomplish nothing. They would never believe that their advanced technology was actually a weakness. They would assume humans were simply too stupid to understand proper military tactics. We'll do exactly what we promised, Morrison said finally. We'll provide logistics and evacuation support. When their ships start failing, we'll be there to save as many lives as possible. Rodriguez cleared his throat. Captain, there's something else you should know. I've been in contact with engineers on other human ships. We've all made some modifications to our weapon systems. What kind of modifications? Let's just say that if we need to fight, we'll have a few surprises for the Void Hunters. Morrison nodded. Earth's military had spent 3 years preparing for this war, while pretending to be peaceful merchants and explorers. Every human ship in space carried weapons that no alien species had ever seen, designed specifically to exploit Void Hunter weaknesses. The communication panel chimed again. This time it was Admiral Vexenara, calling from her flagship. Her scaled face showed the confidence of someone who had never lost a major battle. Captain Morrison, our fleet is ready to begin the operation. Please maintain your position in the rear guard and prepare to receive evacuation shuttles when the battle concludes. Understood, Admiral. We'll be ready. The transmission ended. Morrison looked around at his crew, seeing the same determination in their faces that he felt in his heart. For 3 years they had been preparing for this moment, not just to prove human worth to the galaxy, but to save it from a threat that would destroy every advanced civilization. Amy, bring all weapon systems online. he ordered. Pete, I want maximum power to engines and shields. Lisa, monitor all alien communications and track Void Hunter movements. Ben, prepare for combat maneuvers. Sir, Maria said from her station. Should I contact the other human ships? Morrison smiled grimly. Tell Susan and Santos to prepare for Protocol Omega. If this goes the way we expect, we're going to show the galaxy what human ships can really do. Outside the viewport, the alien fleet began to move toward battle, their ships gleaming like jewels against the darkness of space. Behind them, slow and ugly, the 3 human vessels followed at what everyone assumed was their maximum speed. None of the aliens realized that the human ships were holding back, waiting for the moment when advanced technology would fail and simple, brutal effectiveness would be all that mattered. The battle began like a symphony of light and energy. Admiral Vexenara's flagship led the charge, its weapons painting brilliant streaks across the darkness of space. Behind her, hundreds of alien vessels moved in perfect formation, each one a testament to thousands of years of technological advancement. Morrison watched from the bridge of the USS Defiance as the alien fleet engaged the Void Hunters near the 4th planet. The enemy ships were unlike anything in the galaxy, dark angular vessels that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. They moved with an unsettling grace like predators that had done this many times before. Forthan ships are phasing in and out of normal space, Amy reported from her tactical station. They're trying to avoid direct confrontation while their weapons charge. The Vorthan vessels flickered like ghosts, appearing just long enough to fire their phase cannons before vanishing into another dimension. It was a tactic that had proven effective against every known enemy in the galaxy. Their weapons could strike targets while remaining completely untouchable. On another part of the battlefield, the Hive Collective's swarm ships moved like a single organism. Thousands of small vessels coordinated through their neural network, each one knowing exactly where every other ship would be at any moment. They swarmed around Void Hunter ships like angry insects, their combined firepower capable of overwhelming any defense. The Ethereal Collective's crystal ships hung back, manipulating gravity fields to trap enemy vessels. Space itself bent around their targets, creating crushing forces that should have torn the Void Hunter ships apart. Their quantum matrices calculated perfect firing solutions, accounting for every variable in the chaotic battle. It's working, Dr. Hayes said, monitoring the alien communications. Void Hunter ships are taking damage. The aliens are confident they can win this. Morrison said nothing. He kept watching, waiting for the moment he knew was coming. It started small. Commander Zexthal's flagship flickered during a phase transition and stayed visible for several seconds longer than intended. His panicked voice came over the communication channels. Phase drive is not responding. Something is interfering with our dimensional matrix. Then Queen Hivesinger Clixara's swarm ships began acting erratically. Instead of moving as one coordinated unit, individual vessels started breaking formation. Some turned on their neighbors, their pilots screaming that they were receiving conflicting orders from the neural network. Admiral, came a desperate transmission from one of the ethereal ships. Our quantum computers are processing impossible equations. We're showing calculations that violate basic mathematics. Morrison leaned forward in his chair. Here we go. The Void Hunters had activated their quantum disruption weapons. What followed was not a battle, but a catastrophe. Vorthan ships found themselves trapped between dimensions, their crews experiencing existence in multiple realities simultaneously. The phase drives that made them untouchable became prisons that tore their vessels apart from the inside. The Hive Collective's neural network became a weapon turned against itself. The same connections that allowed perfect coordination now carried corrupted data that drove pilots insane. Swarm ships fired on each other in desperate confusion, while their queen screamed commands that nobody could understand. Ethereal vessels created uncontrolled gravity wells that consumed everything nearby, including their own ships. Their quantum matrices, designed to calculate perfect solutions, began processing paradoxes that caused the computers to literally tear themselves apart at the atomic level. All alien ships are reporting critical failures, Amy said, her voice tight with controlled emotion. Their weapons are offline, engines are failing, and most of their crew are incapacitated. Admiral Vexnara's voice crackled over the communication channels, distorted by quantum interference. All ships' emergency protocols. Evacuate to nearest human vessels immediately. Repeat, evacuate to human vessels. Morrison felt no satisfaction at being proven right. These were good people, brave warriors who had fought to protect the galaxy. They didn't deserve to die because their technology was too advanced for its own good. Amy signaled the Relentless and Thunderbolt. Begin emergency evacuation procedures. Ben set course for the Admiral's flagship. The USS Defiance moved through the chaos of the failing alien fleet. Around them, ships that had been graceful works of art now tumbled helplessly through space. Some were breaking apart as their own systems turned against them. Others drifted powerless, their crews trapped inside metal coffins. The Void Hunters pressed their advantage with ruthless efficiency. Their dark ships moved through the disabled alien fleet, firing precise shots that finished off any vessel that might still be salvageable. They showed no interest in prisoners or surrender. This was extermination, pure and simple. Morrison's ship reached Admiral Vexnara's flagship just as its hull began to crack from internal stress. The quantum disruption weapons didn't just disable alien technology, they caused it to consume itself from within. Emergency transport, Morrison ordered. Get as many survivors as we can. Human crewmen in simple pressure suits moved through the alien ship, carrying unconscious survivors to safety. Where alien technology had failed completely, human equipment worked perfectly. Their magnetic boots held them to metal surfaces. Their air recyclers provided breathable atmosphere, and their radios maintained clear communication. Dr. Hayes worked frantically to treat alien survivors, many of whom were suffering from quantum displacement syndrome, a condition caused by exposure to reality-distorting weapons. Her medical equipment, primitive by galactic standards, was the only technology still functioning. "Captain," came Susan Blake's voice over the radio. "The Relentless has picked up survivors from 12 Vorthan ships, but we're running out of time. The Void Hunters are closing in on our position." Morrison looked at his tactical display. 3 human ships against dozens of Void Hunter vessels. By every measure of galactic military doctrine, they should retreat immediately. Their weapons were too primitive, their ships too slow, their technology too backward to pose any threat. But galactic military doctrine had just been proven catastrophically wrong. "All human ships, maintain evacuation operations," Morrison ordered. "We're not leaving anyone behind." A Void Hunter ship moved toward the USS Defiance, its weapons charging with dark energy. Morrison watched it approach, remembering every intelligence report about these creatures. They had never fought human ships because they had never needed to. Humans were irrelevant, their technology so primitive it wasn't worth the effort to destroy. The Void Hunter ship fired its quantum disruption, beamed directly at the USS Defiance. The beam struck the human ships' shields and dissipated harmlessly. Simple electromagnetic barriers, the kind of technology the galaxy had abandoned centuries ago, proved completely immune to weapons designed to corrupt advanced systems. Amy looked up from her station with surprise. "Sir, their weapons had no effect." "Our shields are holding at 100%. Morrison smiled grimly. "That's because our shields don't use quantum mechanics. They're just charged particles in a magnetic field. Nothing for their weapons to disrupt." The Void Hunter ship fired again, this time with multiple weapons. Energy beams that should have torn through the primitive human vessel instead splashed against barriers that operated on principles so simple they couldn't be corrupted. "Amy," Morrison said calmly, "return fire." The USS Defiance's main gun spoke for the first time in the battle. Not elegant energy weapons or exotic particle beams, but simple kinetic projectiles fired from magnetic rails. Chunks of tungsten accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed struck the Void Hunter ship with the force of nuclear weapons. The alien vessel, designed to defeat the most advanced technology in the galaxy, had no defense against a lump of metal moving very fast. It exploded in a brilliant flash that lit up the entire battlefield. Morrison opened communication channels to the other human ships. "Susan, Santos, you saw that. Their weapons can't touch us, and our weapons can destroy them. Begin combat operations." For the first time in 3 years, human warships revealed their true capabilities to the galaxy. The USS Relentless and USS Thunderbolt moved with surprising speed, their engines pushing them far faster than any alien had imagined possible. Their weapons, dismissed as primitive kinetic systems, proved devastatingly effective against enemies who had no experience defending against such simple brutality. But there were dozens of Void Hunter ships and only 3 human vessels. Morrison knew they could win this battle, But first they had to save as many alien survivors as possible. The galaxy had mocked human technology, but humanity would prove its worth by protecting those who had scorned them. The medical bay of the USS Defiance was crowded with alien survivors in various states of distress. Admiral Vexnara sat on a simple metal bench, her scaled hands shaking as she stared at nothing. The proud commander who had led hundreds of ships into battle now looked broken, her confidence shattered along with her fleet. Commander Zexthul lay on a medical bed, his forearms twitching as Dr. Hayes ran simple diagnostic equipment over his body. The Vorthon officer had been trapped between dimensions for several minutes, and the experience had left him barely conscious. Queen Hive singer Clixara made soft clicking sounds that the translator couldn't interpret. Her connection to the swarm network had been severed when the neural links were corrupted, leaving her alone in her own mind for the first time in her life. Captain Morrison entered the medical bay, his simple uniform a stark contrast to the elegant clothing worn by the alien survivors. Many of them looked at him with confusion, unable to understand how a primitive human ship had survived when their advanced vessels had failed. Admiral Vexnara, Morrison said gently, I need to ask you some questions about Void Hunter capabilities. She looked up at him with eyes that held no arrogance anymore. How? She whispered. How are you still alive? Your ship should have been the first target. Your technology is so primitive. Morrison pulled up a chair and sat across from her. That's exactly why we survived. Admiral, what I'm about to tell you must remain classified until this crisis is over. Dr. Hayes approached with her medical scanner, a device that looked like it belonged in a museum compared to alien medical technology. Admiral, you're suffering from quantum displacement syndrome. Your brain was briefly exposed to conflicting reality states. The symptoms should fade, but you may experience confusion for several hours. Your medical equipment, Vexnara said, staring at the simple scanner. It still works. Because it doesn't use quantum processors or neural interfaces, Hayes explained. It's just electromagnetic sensors and basic computer analysis. Nothing the Void Hunters can disrupt. Morrison stood and activated a wall display, showing technical diagrams of human ship systems. To alien eyes, the designs looked incredibly crude. Thick metal walls, simple mechanical controls, and basic electronic systems that most species had abandoned centuries ago. 3 years ago, when Earth joined the galactic community, we encountered the Void Hunters. Morrison began. Your ships tried to help us and they were disabled just like today. But our ships kept fighting because we didn't use the same technology. Commander Zexthul's eyes focused with effort. You mean your backward technology was actually an advantage? Not backward. Purposeful. Morrison highlighted different ship systems on the display. Every human vessel in space was designed specifically to fight an enemy that could disable advanced technology. While the galaxy saw us as primitive, we were building a fleet immune to Void Hunter weapons. Chief Engineer Pete Rodriguez entered the medical bay, his hands still dirty from working on ship repairs. Captain, I thought you should know. I've been examining the wreckage of alien ships. Their quantum matrices didn't just fail randomly. The Void Hunters sent specific virus patterns designed to corrupt each species' technology. Admiral Vexnara struggled to her feet. You're saying they studied us. They knew exactly how to defeat our systems. For months, maybe years, Morrison confirmed. Every battle, every encounter, they were learning. They know how to disable phase drives, corrupt neural networks, and overload quantum computers. They know everything about galactic technology. But nothing about human technology, Rodriguez added with a grin. Morrison walked to another display showing human weapon systems. Our magnetic railguns fire simple metal projectiles using electromagnetic acceleration. Our missiles use chemical explosives with mechanical timers. Our shields are just charged particles in a magnetic field. None of it sophisticated enough for the Void Hunters to disrupt. Dr. Hayes pulled up medical data on her tablet. The Void Hunter weapons work by introducing quantum paradoxes into any system that relies on quantum mechanics. Advanced alien brains that are enhanced with quantum implants experience reality distortions. But human brains are completely biological, so we're immune. Queen Hive singer Clixara managed to speak through her translator. Your species never developed quantum technology because you're too primitive. Morrison smiled. We never developed it because we didn't need it. When you can solve a problem with simple physics, why make it complicated? Amy Davis's voice came over the ship's communication system. Captain, we're receiving a transmission from Captain Blake. The Relentless has engaged 6 Void Hunter ships and destroyed 4 of them. Captain Santos reports similar success with the Thunderbolt. Admiral Vexnara stared at Morrison in disbelief. Your 3 ships are actually fighting the Void Hunters and winning. Because our weapons work when theirs don't, Morrison explained. A chunk of tungsten moving at 10% of light speed doesn't care about quantum disruption fields. It just hits whatever it's aimed at and destroys it. Rodriguez activated another display showing the human fleet's true capabilities. We've been pretending to be slow and weak for 3 years while we studied the Void Hunters. Our engines are actually more powerful than most alien drives. Our weapons hit harder than anything in the galaxy. And our defenses are immune to their primary weapons. Commander Zexthul struggled to sit up. You let us think you were helpless while you prepared to fight our enemies. We tried to warn people, Morrison said. But nobody would listen to primitive humans. Your species assumed we were too backward to understand real warfare. Amy's voice came over the intercom again. Captain, we're detecting massive Void Hunter reinforcements approaching the system. At least 40 ships. Morrison stood and looked at the alien survivors. Admiral, I'm going to ask something of you. My 3 ships can fight the Void Hunters, but we can't protect the galaxy alone. We need every species to understand that advanced technology isn't always better technology. Admiral Vexnara tried to process what she was hearing. You want us to admit that human technology is superior. Not superior, different. Appropriate for this specific threat. Morrison activated the ship's main communication system. Maria, open a channel to all human vessels. Captain Susan Blake's face appeared on the display, her ship's bridge visible behind her. Battle damage was evident, but she looked confident. Jack, we're ready for the main engagement. All human ships are reporting weapons charged and shields at full power. Captain Greg Santos joined the transmission from the USS Thunderbolt. The alien ships we rescued are asking how we're still fighting. Their crews can't believe primitive human technology is working when their advanced systems failed. Morrison looked at the alien survivors in his medical bay. Admiral, would you like to address your surviving fleet commanders? Tell them what you've learned about human capabilities. Vexnara stood slowly, her scales beginning to show their natural color as she recovered from the quantum displacement. Open the channel. Faces appeared on the display. Alien survivors from dozens of ships, all looking confused and desperate. These were military commanders who had never experienced defeat, now trapped aboard primitive human vessels, while their advanced fleets burned in space. Fellow commanders, Admiral Vexnara began, her voice growing stronger as she spoke. We underestimated the humans. What we called primitive technology was actually designed specifically to fight the Void Hunters. Their ships are immune to quantum disruption weapons, and their weapons can destroy enemy vessels. The alien faces on the display showed shock and disbelief. One ethereal commander pulsed with what the translator called confusion and embarrassment. Morrison stepped forward. Commanders, the Void Hunter reinforcements will arrive in 20 minutes. My ships can fight them, but we need your help. Any surviving alien technology that doesn't rely on quantum systems can still function. Simple mechanical systems, basic electronics, anything that operates on classical physics. Commander Zexthul managed to stand. He's right. Some of our backup systems are still functional. Emergency life support, manual controls, simple weapons that we stopped using because they were too primitive. Dr. Hayes looked up from her medical equipment. Captain, I should mention something else. The human survivors we've rescued are recovering much faster than expected. It seems our biological systems are naturally resistant to Void Hunter weapons. Morrison nodded. Because we never enhanced our biology with quantum implants or neural networks. Sometimes being natural is better than being advanced. The communication display chimed with an incoming message. Amy's voice was urgent. Captain, Void Hunter reinforcements are entering the system. 43 ships, all moving to attack positions. Morrison looked at the alien survivors one final time. Admiral, are you ready to see what human ships can really do when we stop pretending to be weak? The main view screen of the USS Defiance showed a sight that would have terrified any normal galactic fleet. 43 Void Hunter ships moved through space like shadows, their dark hulls absorbing light and radiating menace. These were not scouts or advance forces. This was a full extermination fleet, sent to finish what the first wave had started. Captain Morrison stood on his bridge. surrounded by alien survivors who had insisted on witnessing the battle. Admiral Vexnara gripped the railing with shaking hands, still unable to fully believe that 3 primitive human ships planned to engage such overwhelming odds. "Amy, status report," Morrison ordered. "All human ships report ready for combat." Lieutenant Commander Davis replied. "The Relentless and Thunderbolt are in formation. Captain Blake reports her weapons are charged and shields are at maximum power." Dr. Hayes looked up from her science station. "Captain, I'm detecting some interesting patterns in the Void Hunter approach. They're not using their quantum disruption weapons at long range because they don't consider us a threat." "Good," Morrison said grimly. "Let them think that right up until we start shooting." Chief Engineer Rodriguez's voice came over the intercom from the engine room. "Captain, fusion reactors are running hot and clean. All weapon systems are powered and ready. The magnetic railguns are charged to full capacity." Morrison opened a communication channel to the other human ships. Susan Blake's determined face appeared on one screen while Greg Santos nodded from another. "Captains, this is it," Morrison said. 43 enemy ships against our 3. By every rule of galactic warfare, we should run. "But we're not following galactic rules," Blake replied with a cold smile. "We're following human rules." Santos checked his weapons display. "My crew is ready, Jack. We've been waiting 3 years for this fight." Admiral Vexnara stepped forward. "Captain Morrison, surely you don't intend to fight them directly. Even if your technology works, you're outnumbered 15-1. Morrison looked at her calmly. "Admiral, what's the first rule of human military doctrine?" She stared at him blankly. "If you're in a fair fight, you've already made a mistake," Morrison explained. "We're not going to fight fair." The Void Hunter fleet began to spread out, preparing to surround the human ships. Their movements were precise and coordinated, showing the confidence of predators who had never met effective resistance. "Amy, are you tracking their command ship?" Morrison asked. "Yes, sir. The largest vessel in the center of their formation. It's coordinating the attack patterns." "Good. Maria, open a channel to all human ships. Execute Protocol Omega on my command." Dr. Hayes activated her scanning equipment, watching energy readings from across the battlefield. "Captain, the Void Hunters are charging their quantum disruption weapons. They're planning to disable us the same way they disabled the alien fleet." "Let them try," Morrison said. "Ben, bring us about to face the enemy fleet. All speed." The USS Defiance turned toward the approaching enemy, its fusion engines pushing the ship faster than any alien had ever seen a human vessel move. Behind it, the Relentless and Thunderbolt matched its course and speed. Commander Zexthal watched in amazement. "Those engines. They're moving 3 times faster than they did at the conference." "We were holding back," Morrison explained. "For 3 years, every human ship in space has been pretending to be slow and weak while we studied our enemies and prepared for war." The Void Hunter ships fired their quantum disruption weapons, sending waves of reality-distorting energy toward the human fleet. The beams struck human shields and dissipated harmlessly, unable to find any quantum systems to corrupt. "Their weapons are useless against us," Amy reported with satisfaction. "No effect on any human systems. Return fire," Morrison ordered. "All weapons," the 3 human ships spoke with one voice. Magnetic railguns launched tungsten projectiles at incredible speeds, while missile tubes fired simple chemical warheads guided by mechanical systems. The weapons looked primitive compared to elegant alien energy beams, but when they struck Void Hunter ships, the results were devastating. Explosions bloomed across the enemy fleet as kinetic projectiles punched through hulls designed to deflect exotic energy. Chemical warheads detonated inside Void Hunter ships, their simple timers immune to any form of electronic interference. "Direct hits on 7 enemy vessels," Amy reported. "They're not expecting weapons that actually work." Captain Blake's voice came over the radio. "The Relentless has engaged the left flank. These things have no defense against old-fashioned explosives," Santos added from the Thunderbolt. "Right flank is breaking up. I think they're trying to retreat." But Morrison wasn't finished. "All ships, prepare for Protocol Omega. Link fusion reactors and channel all power to the electromagnetic pulse generators." Admiral Vexnara stared at him. "What are you doing?" "Something only human ships can do," Morrison replied. "Our reactors are designed to work together. We can create an electromagnetic pulse that will span this entire star system." Dr. Hayes monitored the power buildup. "Captain, the aliens at our science conferences always wondered why human ships had such powerful reactors for their size. Now they'll understand. The 3 human ships moved into a triangle formation, their reactors synchronizing through simple radio communications. Energy readings climbed far beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen from human technology. Rodriguez's voice was tense with concentration. Reactors are linked and stable. EMP generators are charged. We have enough power to fry every electronic system within 10 million kilometers. Morrison looked at the alien survivors on his bridge. You might want to hold on to something. This is going to be rough. The USS Defiance, Relentless, and Thunderbolt released their coordinated electromagnetic pulse in a single devastating wave. The energy spread out from the human ships like a sphere of invisible destruction, racing across the battlefield at the speed of light. When it struck the Void Hunter fleet, the results were immediate and catastrophic. Ships that had seemed unstoppable moments before went dark as their systems failed. The same quantum technology that made them effective against alien fleets became their weakness when faced with a simple electromagnetic pulse. All enemy ships are dead in space, Amy reported with amazement. Their quantum computers can't restart after that level of interference. The 3 human ships moved through the disabled Void Hunter fleet, their weapons finishing off any vessel that showed signs of recovery. It wasn't a battle anymore, it was an execution. Captain Blake's transmission showed her grinning bridge crew. Jack, we just destroyed an entire Void Hunter fleet using technology they thought was too primitive to matter. Santos was equally excited. My weapons officer says some of the enemy ships are trying to surrender. They've never encountered resistance they couldn't overcome. Morrison felt no joy in the victory. Too many good people had died today because the galaxy had refused to listen to primitive humans, but now they would have to listen. Maria, open a channel to the Galactic Defense Council, he ordered. Admiral Vexenara watched as the communication system connected to the emergency council session. Dozens of alien faces appeared on screen, all showing panic and confusion as reports of the disaster reached them. Council members, Morrison began. This is Captain Jack Morrison of the USS Defiance. I'm transmitting a full battle report of the engagement in the Kepler 442 system. The data streams showed everything. The failure of alien technology, the survival of human ships, and the complete destruction of the Void Hunter fleet. Council members stared at the information in disbelief. Admiral Vexenara stepped forward. Council, I formally request that humanity be granted full membership in the galactic community. Not as junior partners, but as equals who have proven their worth in battle. The humans saved us, Commander Zexthul added, his forearms gesturing weakly. When our advanced technology failed, their primitive systems worked perfectly. Queen Hivesinger Clixara's translator clicked as she spoke. The swarm acknowledges human superiority in warfare. We request immediate technology sharing to upgrade our fleets. Morrison held up his hand. We're not superior. We're different. For 3 years, the galaxy has treated humans like children who didn't understand real technology. But sometimes the simplest solution is the best solution. Dr. Hayes activated her displays, showing technical readouts from the battle. The Void Hunter's weapons are designed to defeat the most advanced technology in the galaxy. But they can't disrupt systems that don't use quantum mechanics. Human technology isn't primitive, it's appropriate. The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Every species in the galaxy would need to redesign their fleets, abandoning centuries of technological advancement in favor of simpler, more reliable systems. Morrison looked directly at the council members. Humanity offers to share our technology and tactical knowledge with all galactic species. But we do so as equals, not as students learning from superior teachers. The vote was unanimous. For the first time in galactic history, a species was granted full membership based not on advanced technology, but on proven effectiveness in battle. As the transmission ended, Morrison looked around his bridge at the alien survivors who had witnessed humanity's greatest victory. They no longer saw primitive technology and backward thinking. They saw the